most of what we do in terms of awareness is backed by finance, it's backed by money. And as a result of that, the controller at the Liberian Authority is our guest today on the program, Mr. Clarence Togbe. And we'll be talking about a lot of different things relating to how the Land Authority can expand, has been expanding. As some of you may be aware, the Liberia Land Authority has opened a couple of offices in different counties, in collaboration with their partners. There's always a very big question about when the donors leave, how do we sustain certain things that we do in our country? And so today, the conversation will focus mostly about that. So we're also streaming on the LNTV page, so you can also follow on social media. Welcome once again to the program. Let me join Mr. Clarence Togbe now. Sir, good evening. Welcome to Land is Life.
Thank you very much, Daniel Ankrah, and it's a pleasure being with you at this hour.
Thanks very kindly for joining us on the program, sir. Firstly, let me understand from you, as controller at the Land Authority, basically, share with us what are some of your key responsibilities, before we get into the topic for the day.
Okay, thank you. As a controller, some of my responsibility has to do with budgeting, expenditure, and providing financial report that is giving accountability of our financial activities at the Liberia Land Authority. And also making provision in terms of, like you regularly say, our sustainability plan, what we can do in terms of enhancing our plan to be able to stand on our own in the absence of our donor partners.
I mean, I couldn't agree more, given the situation we have currently, in our country. But let's talk about some of these things that are happening. How are you funding? When I say you, I don't mean you as in coming from your pocket, but how is the Land Authority being funded to execute most of what you're doing? Because when you follow the Land Authority social media page, for example, you see that one day they're in Grand Judea, another day they're in Grand Bassa, they're doing awareness, is it land rights law, gender mainstreaming? How is that balance made?
Okay, thank you once again. Our activities across the counties or across the country basically is to provide awareness. As you are aware, Liberia Land Authority is a newly established entity.
Yep.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand even the land rights law and how they go about to purchase land, to acquire land, even in the sub-region, in the urban area, and in the interior area, right? Mm-hmm. So we go to the public, we go to the counties and provide, I call it the awareness in terms of women right to land. Women also has the right to acquire land as men has. So we go in the field to provide such clarity to the public.
This is quite interesting, and let's talk about the opening of the offices. Is it directly, funded by the government? The opening of offices in different counties like Lofa, Nimba, and other places, sub offices of the Land Authority.
Well, yeah, it's our offices, especially the offices that you name. Mm-hmm. Was to have those offices open. It was sponsored by the World Bank. The World Bank, they were able to renovate 5 counties. That money it didn't come from government directly. It was from the World Bank.
Okay.
And
so the offices were basically there, but they were not, operational.
They were not up to
They were not
operational. They were not up to standard. Yeah. Then after the renovation by the World Bank. Mm-hmm. In our outline, that is the land material, we're able to furnish those offices. That is, give us office equipment and what have you to have the offices functional.
Interesting. Now, now that the offices are fully functional, have you being the Land Authority been able to provide the these offices with the requisite staff to be able to, because that too will come through budgetary allocation or through your budget line as an institution of government. Because people will need to access these services, different services, that the land authority provides right in the county, right? That is the idea of decentralization.
Sure, that's right. So to have in working along with the decentralization plan,
Mhm.
we have exhausted every other effort to have every staff at our centers or our offices in the various counties employed, right? If not all, I can tell you that we have 80% of our staff, on government payroll.
Mm.
Yeah.
So were they basically recruited? Did you have to recruit new people from the county, or you were just reassigning folks to these meeting service centers?
So basically, what we did, we have some function taken from the Ministry of Internal Affairs,
Okay.
the Ministry of former Ministry of Mines and I call it Lands, Mines and Energy.
Mm-hmm.
That is a surveyor, and we have Land Commissioner from the MIA. So those staff was seconded by the land authority. So we used them. They were already in the county, except for the registrar. We also make use of the registrar from the CNDRA, though. We maintain them, except for those ones who have died, and may their soul rest in peace, and they were replaced.
Understood understood very well. Now, again, I see a lot of people in the counties. How are you funding awareness? Is your awareness component being funded, especially for the land rights law? The law was signed by President Weah in 2018, and since the passage of the historic passage of the land rights law, one of the key things that come to mind is how awareness is done, so that people get to know what the law provides, and that process require funding. So, I mean, from your office, how has it been like in terms of adequately funding awareness processes?
Daniel, is hard to say. Awareness is being done in different ways, in different at different levels, right? Personally, we have our land administrator in the counties taking the airway. I think on a weekly basis, they visit those local radio stations, because the truth is we have our land administrators that in the specific county that speak the vernacular, and from that end, right? And sometimes they go about or creating the awareness in the vernacular to the extent that people will be able to understand exactly what we are talking about. And it has been sponsored by World Bank. I remember a year ago, we have a massive awareness program, and we headed by Amanda Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And his team. It went it went across the country, and that was successful at some I call it a certain level. But awareness, land issue is a continual thing, something that will continue to educate people, because sometimes too many of us don't listen to radio, right?
Sure. So the direct community engagement is really needed.
Yes, the direct community engagement. Sometimes the flyers, and we put it to various access point and what have you. And these programs have been sponsored by our partner, basically.
Agreed. Now, most of what you're saying continues to come back to the fact that most of these things are being sponsored by the partner. So it becomes concerning as to what your existing budget can do or can cover if the partners were to withdraw their support, or if these projects, based initiatives were to come to an end.
Well, thank you again, Daniel. What it is that the issue of sustainability, it has been an issue that has been on the table, that has been discussed by the board of commissioners headed by Commissioner J. Adams Malaba. And it has been our focus over the past 2 years, and we have we have been working on how you call it, creating new how you call it, land services.
Okay.
That we be able to beef up our revenue generation. Let's say, for instance, all around us here, land services provided in Liberia is almost like nothing. It costs you nothing. Common D registration is $25, 25 US, which is just nothing.
Why is 25? Why is 25 United States dollars for deed registration not so much?
It's because what happened, the mechanism put into place now is it going to take us new how you call it, new it's going to cost us to hire new technicians.
Okay.
Because before you even register your deed, Daniel, you have to go and probate, and the probate court will not just take a flying deed for you and then have it probated. No, what they are doing now is that when you take your deed to the probate court will send you back to the Liberia Land Authority for deed verification, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that deed verification is a service that will be provided by us. What do we do during the deed verification? We take the deed, the paper, the sheet of paper you bring as a deed, we take it to our GIS technician. It's a setup. Yeah, it's a whole setup. We take it to the GIS technician, and they do all their authentication and verification, all that technical work, and then we will have to go in the field to verify that parcel of land you claim to have. Right? Yeah. We want to go in the field to know exactly all of that
is so comparatively to other countries in the region. If we were paying 25 United States dollars for deed registration in the sub-region, what are others paying?
They pay not less than $150. Check the Ghana land sector. Check the Ruwea. Yes, the records are there. We have done our own research on those activities, and what we do here is just nothing.
So at this point, the Land Authority too, aside from what comes through the national envelope, has got to generate funds from these, different initiatives. So what are some of your revenue, lines that will generate for you aside from deregistration?
Okay. As I said, we are now working with in close collaboration with the probate, with the court, not just the probate, with the court. People who don't want to go through the ADR process, that is the alternative dispute resolution.
Yeah.
Yes, who don't want to go through that process, you have the alternative to go to court or to settle your land dispute at the Liberia Land Authority, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to court, and for the court to render verdict, they will also ask Liberia Land Authority to send a surveyor to go and do what we call an investigative survey. Based on that investigative survey report, the court render verdict, right? Okay. So what we do now is that we do a bill to the court. I mean, for the client to the court.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and they how you call it, they will be able to facilitate the survey activities, and then 20% of that budget is being withheld as an administrative cost.
Okay, so let me hold you there. The chairman of the Land Authority has also joined us on the line. Chairman Manuel, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Daniel, and thanks and appreciation also to your guests in the studio, who is Clarence and the controller of the Land Authority. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Chairman. Go ahead. I'm sure you want to contribute. We're talking about financial sustainability because some of the key things here is that aside from donor fund drying out, how do you collect fees that people should be paying? Is it even enough to sustain the institution aside from what you take as budgetary allocation?
Yeah, actually, Daniel, the land sector is not a full sector unless it is fully managed.
All right.
Or administered. like the controller talk about it, the price, the cost of a land deregistration in Liberia, which is $25. And you asked a question, when he said the amount was small, you said why? First of all, you want to have your deed into a system that whenever you ask for a copy of that deed, that you can easily have it. You want a system that is very effective and efficient.
A digitized system.
You want people working in the system who also know. And the best way to keep them in the system, to keep the system working, is to pay them well.
Sure.
To service the system itself. So $25 per deed actually is very small. Ungranted, or if you are to present your deed, as the controller said, registration of a deed is not just a deed, it's registration of the land. It's registration of your title. We need to make sure that, first of all, that title really exists on the ground. That is when we go for verification. $25 cannot afford that. But besides that, for the fact that you want the land, you are also telling the government that you are prepared to pay the taxes. Now, when you present your deed, we also go on the field to make sure that the land really exists on the surface of the earth, and it's not just a fake document that we are registering. But besides that, once the land is there, we need to conduct evaluation. The new law authorizes the land authority. The land authority to do all land valuation, property valuation, and the amount, the numbers collected will also be used for real estate tax payment.
Sure.
So if people just go and register deed and they go home and sit down, and when private comes about that land, they also want the government to go and investigate. That means if you want the system to work, you got to feed the system. And you don't feed the system with hope or anticipations of acceleration. You feed the system with the finances. Yes, we have so many other areas that we need to collect the taxes, or we need to collect it, to make sure that we know one day the donors will withdraw. How do we continue running the services? That's the system we are putting in place now to make sure that we can generate money for the government, and then the government will use a portion of that money to fund the land authority activities.
It sounds a good plan. But before you go, Mr. Chairman, 1 minute before you go, also I was asking the controller about the offices, and from your perspective as the head of the land authority, when it comes to these offices, how much have you decentralized activities of the land authority in the counties with the opening of new offices in collaboration with some of your partners?
Actually, substantially we have decentralized, but it is not yet fully.
Okay.
It's like all these are now signed, all public land sales deeds, government deeds signed by the chairman of the authority. Do all the countries have the services to print deed? No, we do that at Central. Notwithstanding, in every country we have a land administrator.
Okay.
In every country we have a surveyor assigned. Of course, not all of the surveyors, yes, are licensed, but in every country we have a surveyor assigned. In every country we have a deed registrar in the country. In most of the countries we have a land dispute resolution officer. Do we have the countries fully functional? No, because we don't even have the money to employ the sufficient manpower to man the offices. But as per the provision of the law, we are decentralizing, and we will make sure that every activities that take place in Monrovia can also be performed in the county offices in time to come.
In time to come. Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. We appreciate your intervention.
You are most welcome. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Clarence.
Thank you very much. Okay, Clarence, you have anything to add?
Yeah, concerning the decentralization, as Chairman just said, apart from those statutory positions that I just named, you need extra manpower, because that's just for you to have a dispute officer. If one man cannot go to settle land dispute.
Most definitely. At times people are even chasing you with cutlasses and things.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a serious race, and we hope we can get there in the soonest possible time.
Well, it's something that we hope that can happen also in the soonest possible time. This will provide a lot of things, and the fact that the land authority is fast thinking to start putting into place measures is quite laudable. But because I will also have to speak with Emmanuel Chile Davis. He's in Bassa, and I understand they are there to train selected CLDMC members on how to mainstream gender activities in land rights. So in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'll be dropping the line with you and connecting with him, and then I'll wrap up the show with him. But before we do that, it's election year, and sometimes people tend to wonder whether or not other activities will stop as a result of elections taking place in a country like Liberia. Now, my question to you is, would activities continue to flow, seamlessly or smoothly during these times?
Dana, I would say yes. Yes, activity will flow as normal activities will flow on a normal basis, right? Because I don't think election will have any impact on the land services delivery.
So somebody would not go to one of the centers and then they say, "Oh no, the person out here going to the campaign place." So, those are things that could happen, and probably I hope the chairman can even call me back so I can ask him to, because work must continue.
we have our employees. We have our employees that are posted.
Okay.
And they were within diligently working, because the issue of land it's a sacrifice.
Definitely.
It's just any kind of work that you want to get yourself involved in. It's a sacrifice that we all do, to bring stability in this country.
All right, so I got the chairman back, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Yeah, Daniel, what's the question?
So I'm asking, we're in an election year, and generally, it becomes psychological that people tend to think that because we're in an election year, things will automatically slow down. But land business is a serious matter, and people can even use the situation to dupe other people when it comes to land business. What is the commitment from the authority to keep their offices open? If I went to the office and they say the man going on a campaign street, what do I do?
Actually, Daniel, we will make sure that the offices are open, but we can't rule out just what you said.
Yeah.
First of all, it is possible that a staff in the office is part of the opposition.
Okay.
If the land authority is to restrict them too much, it may be misinterpreted.
Agreed.
So it may be misinterpreted that the land authority is putting restrictions on opposition members or other things, because we are government entity. What we have to do is to make sure that even the staff in the office know their responsibility, know their obligation, and know very well that other people will come for services. We just have to make sure that the offices or no office is closed, and because of politics or the public cannot get the services they needed. We will make sure work along with the team under a very good working atmosphere, environment, or friendly one, not for any staff to misinterpret, meaning that either the land authority chairman or the citizens is against anyone. Notwithstanding, we'll make sure that we deliver onto the public what we promise to do. Effective and efficient land services. We'll put our system in place. I assure you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate your quick intervention as well to this matter.
Thank you.
All right. So, Mr. Controller, I'll be wrapping up with you shortly. Is there any other thing you'd like to add in terms of the institution's financial, stability and capability to maintain, as is, especially that you have to survive on fees and other land services that we provide at the level of the authority?
Yeah, so what we are doing now, as I said, we have been working on our fee regime that should be approved by the Board of Commissioners. That is our fees regulations. If deregistration will change to maybe $50, we have worked on that, and it should be approved in the soonest possible time by our Board of Commissioners to be implemented.
Okay, wonderful.
As time required.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so very kindly. If there's anything else you'd like to add, you can go ahead, or we can say thank you to you.
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
Great, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking your time out to speak to us on issues relating to financial stability at the Land Authority.
Thank you.
All right, folks, if you're just joining us, a reminder you're following the program Land is Life. This program is proudly sponsored by Lendisa. Lendisa is an international organization working to secure land rights for rural women and men, and it's in collaboration with the Liberia Land Authority and also ELBC station. I'm your host, Daniel Ankrah. Thanks to all of you who are following us. The program is also live on Facebook on LNTV Liberia Live Facebook page. Very shortly, we'll be going to Grand Bassa County to speak to the head of communications and outreach at the Liberia Land Authority, Mr. Emmanuel Chede Davis. He's out there in Grand Bassa County, and the Land Authority is carrying out some training in gender mainstreaming. As we know, women have been hugely and grossly marginalized in the land sector. Some men have said women should not own land. Well, the new land rights law provide that opportunity for women to also own land equally as men. Some men say, the land's for them. Their wives cannot have access. Boyfriend say the girlfriend cannot have access. Big brother say the small sister cannot have access. The land rights law now provides for that. And that is some of what Emmanuel and the team are doing in Grand Bassa County to raise awareness and train people in terms of gender mainstreaming. Emmanuel, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Good evening to all of our listeners.
Thank you. We've been talking about financial stability at the Land Authority, maintaining the status quo, even if do not support where to live. And before we talk about the issue of gender mainstreaming, let me pick your brain a bit. In terms of what are some of those services that the Land Authority could generate money from, other than what comes through the national budget? We'll talk about deregistration and these different, other services.
Yeah, services generate fundings from, that's what you just named right now. Mm-hmm. The issue of registration of these, is something that the LAA can generate revenue from. The issue of settling dispute through the ADR mechanism, wherein, disputants can bring their different, problems to the LAA, and the LAA can be able to look at those different issues and see how best they can be resolved, because the issue of resolving your case through the Palava Hall approach, or what we call the ADR mechanism, it has to do with registration, all right?
Yeah.
So, it has to do with registration. So when you come out of the LAA, the first thing you have to do is you have to go and register that particular case at the LAA. Then the investigation starts from wherever you begin from. So dispute resolution through the ADR mechanism is something that the LAA also used to generate, fundings. And then the issues of, like when I'm talking about the deregistration,
mm-hmm.
the different kinds of fees, origin fees, administrative fees, and so forth, including certified copies. If you want to get a certified copy of the LAA at the LAA, you can also use that. We can also use that to generate fundings. If you're talking about title search is one thing at the LAA that we have been doing over the period since the LAA was established. So we do title search, and then that can also be used to generate the needed revenue, at the LAA. And one thing also that also helps the LAA to generate revenue is the issue of investigative survey. All right, Daniel?
Mm-hmm,
investigative survey is where Daniel's who have his land and maybe somebody have gone to encroach, or maybe he's not too satisfied with some, unfolding issues around his property, and he thinks that he can call on the LAA to do some investigation. So what the LAA does is that the land administration department that is headed by Commission on Budgets will send his technicians to that particular area to go and conduct, that particular investigative survey.
Mm.
When that survey is conducted, money is paid to the LAA. And one other thing that we also generate money for is the issue of, the provisions of public land sale deeds. Individuals, Liberians who feel the need that they need to acquire land, maybe their parents never left land for them, or maybe the family does not have land, and they think that it is important for them to come to the LAA and then be able to purchase land. What we do at the LAA, that's another means of generating fundings. So you come at the LAA before you are issued public land sale deed, it has to do with money. So we also get money through those means.
Maybe you want to search for your deed. You got your deed long term, but perhaps you not finding it, and you want to identify where your deeds can be found. All right. So when you come out of the LRA, you will definitely we do search.
Of course, I mean, you have to pay some fee for that.
You have to pay some fees for that. All right. You have to pay fees for that because we're not going to do the search for free. We're not going to issue you your public land sale deeds for free. We're not going to do title search for free. We're not going to settle the dispute for free. Even dispute, though it is a free process, but the issue here is before that process can become free or before the matter can be resolved, there has to be some form of registration. So we do that registration, and then the money is paid, and it goes to the account of the LRA and so forth. So these are some of the, the different services that we at the LRA, we do to generate money. And then one other issue I would like to talk about, I came to my mind right now, is the issue of betting. Betting, yes, betting is one other, services that we do at the LRA, and then it also helps the LRA to generate fundings.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Emmanuel, for, stepping up and highlighting some of those key issues. Now, tell us about your so I always tend to miss this CLDMC thing. It's the Community Land Development Management Committee, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you need to clap for me. I got it today.
Development Management Committee, CLDMC.
Yeah, the CLDMC. So it's the Community Land Development Management Committee. Now, you guys are training folks in Grand Bassa County on issues of gender mainstreaming. Tell us all about it.
Yeah. Daniel.
So let's first begin. What is the CLDMC so the public gets a fair understanding?
The CLDMC is an established committee when, in a community that supervises or runs the affairs of the community. So let's say, for example, you have the Emmanuel community somewhere in Maryland County, all right? And the community have gone through the process to formalize their land. So when that process, the formalization of that particular community land must have a CLDMC established to manage the affairs on behalf of the community. Okay. So the CLDMC is the Community Land Development and Management Committee. It's the body committee of the community. So when, for example, the law says that 5% of every concession sign goes to the community, all right? So who is there to have those discussions when concession comes to the community? The CLDMC plays that role. The CLDMC is the forefront runner, is the face of the community. So when you understand the customary land formalization process, where it has to do with CSI, the community self-identification, participatory mapping, boundary harmonization, establishment of the bylaws, then you have the CLDMC. Before the customary, the complementary survey is conducted, and then the issuance of statutory deed, as we did in Nima County last week, where 8 communities were issued statutory land deeds. So each of these communities do have the CLDMC that carry on the affairs or manage the community land. So that's why we have the CLDMC in every, customary communities. Not that they are everywhere established, because there are other communities that are yet to establish the CLDMC, because that has to do with process.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how long is the training lasting for? We'll come back to talk about the situation in Nima, but how long is the training lasting for?
Yes, the training is supposed to go for some 3 days. It's to educate these CLDMC members of the role of women in the CLDMC at the community level. All right, Daniel. If you can recall,
wait, Emmanuel, pause. Why is it important that after all of the awareness that's been done, that you're taking special interest in training members of the community development management team, that women being a part of this committee is necessary? Doesn't the law require a woman to be on the committee, or some men still feel that women should not be?
Yes, Daniel. The law requires that a woman or women form part of the CLDMC.
Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
that is strictly the law. And the NRA completely emphasized that. Now, the question is, why CLDMC? Now, the issue of mainstreaming gender is very key to our land sector.
Okay.
And when you say, after all of the awareness, yes, we have conducted awareness across the country, but those awareness programs were conducted in selected communities and districts. So not everybody is informed.
Okay.
Though the community is aware that, look, yes, you have to have women involved in the CLDMC establishment and so forth, but it is also important to note that there are more bigger roles that the CLDMC can play as far as women participation is concerned. So when those roles are played and the people are informed, women get involved. Let's say, for example, if a woman who lives in Maryland County, my sister from Maryland County came to Monserrado, or maybe went to Lofa County to marry Daniel. At the community level, what is the perception of those who live in the community? Do they see that particular lady as a stranger, or they see her as a community member? And what can the CLDMC do to help women who are involved, or perhaps who have these challenges to, as to being accepted by their community members? So you need these things to be taught to these CLDMC, selected CLDMC members, so that at the end of the day, they are informed, they are educated, and they are sensitized. Then they take the message back to their community that, look, though we are aware that women are to form part of the CLDMC, but it is not just limited to the CLDMC level. It has to do with the entire community by extension, the county.
Wow,
So you need this training not just to take place at once. You need this training to continue. Because how many people are aware that women cannot be considered property? The issue of our, those perceptions, those beliefs, those concepts, that deprive women. The LA cannot be everywhere. So what we do, we are empowering the communities through the CLDMC with these training and many other trainings, so that they can go to the community and drive the message.
I mean, this is great news. At least people continue to get a form of awareness that lets them know that women participation is quite key. But we have limited time, so I need to also talk to you about sometimes last week the Land Authority gave out, give is not the right word, issued 8 communities in NIMBA statutory deeds. What does this mean for those communities? I mean, is it that any community can request for it? How does it impact how they benefit from the community land?
Okay, Daniel. The law calls for the LIA Act mandates the LIA to help community in terms of the formalization. If you read Article 32, I'm not mistaken, Article 32 down, which has to do with Chapter 8 of the Land Rights Act, you realize that the issue of customary land formalization is very key. It's one thing that is very, that is emphasized within the law. And I want to say kudos to the Honorable Chairman, Anthony J. Adams Manoba, who have always said that his quest, his desire is to ensure, is to see that communities across the Republic of Liberia, the 15 political subdivisions of this country, are able to have their deeds in their hand, their statutory deeds. Now, when the community has a statutory deed, what it does is that it protects the community in terms of concessions. The community can now discuss on the table with concessions. When concession come, or when those different investors come to the community members can now be able to discuss and get to know their benefit or discuss the 5% or so forth. So the issuance of statutory deeds can also enable community members, because mind you now, within the customary land, you have other land involved within the customary land, as inscribed within the law. You talk about agricultural area, you talk about residential area. So statutory deed will now be able to tell the community that, look, now we have our statutory deed. Let's go back to the Land Rights Act that talk about the different areas or the different types of land within the customary land. Let's see how we can now look at residential area for community members. So we have just moved away from the issue of where the community will have to benefit, because when a statutory deed is issued, the community land becomes communal. They can discuss now to do business. All right? So statutory deed issuance is key to Liberia's land reform. So what we did in Nema County is just a tip of the iceberg. The LRA is committed, and that is what we've always done, committed to working with community that will avail themselves for these or to follow the entire process as outlined for the issuance of statutory deed. Once that is completed, the community will be issued statutory deeds.
Wow.
And like you said, it is not something that maybe Emmanuel community or maybe Momo community can just call and say, okay, I'm calling from Momo community. I just realized that we do not have statutory deeds, so for our community, we need our community land deed. You're right. You get that? It doesn't work like that. There is a process. So you inform the LRA, we have realized that we need to have legal document, legal title. So can you now educate us on how these titles can be acquired? The LRA comes in with its technicians to help the community through the process, like I talked about the CSR, the participatory mapping, the boundary harmonization, the issue of establishing their bylaws in conformity with the norms and cultural values of the community. Then you come to the CRTMC being established, confirmatory survey is done, and unique, land management plan is into place, and then the community can be issued their statutory deeds. So when that happens, the community stand a better ground to be able to discuss the issues and the interests of their community. Then they also help to what? To mitigate some of these challenges in terms of land disputes and conflicts.
It is a serious matter, Manuel. I'm going to leave you now, but I mean, do you have plans, or what are your plans in terms of the team moving from to other counties to be able to continue this awareness? Are you going to other counties, or are you returning to Monrovia soon?
Daniel, if you should ask me, I will tell you that I would love, everybody at the LRA would love that this process continued across the country, all right?
I see that there's a board coming.
The process is being sponsored by partners, and they have their limits. They tell you this is what we want you to do, this is what you have to stop at. So we do it right here, and then when it need be, it can be extended when fundings are available. Notwithstanding, we remain committed to serving the Liberian people, but then these commitments comes with some level of monetary, strength.
Sure.
So it is important for us to also understand that though these things are important, but yet instead there's the kind of support that the LRA would need, the national government would need to carry on these exercises across the country. So we remain committed. But notwithstanding, it is important to also state that these activities are sponsored by donors.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. I appreciate you joining
us
this evening on the program Land is Live. Emmanuel Chidi Davis is the Head of Communications and Outreach at the Liberian Land Authority, joining us on the show. Sorry, today we're not taking calls. Sometimes the show is like that. We do a lot to inform you when we have different guests and speakers joining us on the Land is Live program. But the program comes now every Monday evening, 6 to 7 p.m., and it's repeated on ELBC on Saturdays, 5 to 6 p.m. So if you missed most of the live edition today, don't worry. You get the full package on Saturday, 5 to 6 p.m. when the repeat comes your way. Stay tuned to ELBC, folks. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Land is Live program. I've been your host, Daniel Ankrah. Remember, this program is proudly sponsored by Landesa, and Landesa is an international organization working to secure land rights for rural women and men. Until we talk to you next week, Monday, have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.